Good morning. On this Monday, we're going to look at Psalms 68 through 71, combining yesterday's and today's readings. And Psalm 69, or 68 rather, to start with, there's just a whole lot of stuff in here. I mean, it starts out, let God rise up, let his enemies be scattered. As smoke is driven away, so drive them away. As wax melts before a fire. Let God have power, and the enemies just, basically disintegrate, and they're gone away. They have no strength, no endurance. Then let the righteous be joyful and exult before God. And then verse 5, Father of orphans and protector of widows. You're praising God for victory. You're asking God for victory over enemies, and then identifying God as the one who watches out over widows and orphans and those who have nothing, those who are on the outsides, more or less, and he leads the prisoners through prosperity, and the rebellious live in a parched land. This God is watching out for the lonely and the outcasts that way. And then you went before your people, you marched, and it's in some ways it sounds like a reference to the Exodus from Egypt, going out, and your flock found a dwelling in it. Your goodness, you provided mercy. And then starting verse 11, the Lord gives a command. Great is the company of those who bore the tidings, the kings and armies, they flee. So here we're sounding like a great victory over the enemies, it just kind of seems to jump around. And then verse 15, O mighty mountain, mountain of Bashan, O mighty peak, why do you look with envy? And so, this mighty mountain who, is so majestic and, all of its glory and everything, looks on with envy, at God. And then 19, blessed be the Lord who daily bears us up. God is our salvation. A statement of faith, of God watching out, of walking with, of, this being in the presence of, and it's not so much that we are in the presence of God, but that God is present with us. And always, God is always present with us that way. And then verse 21 again, God will shake the heads of the enemies. He'll shatter the enemy. The hairy crown of those will walk in their guilty ways. So again, God will lead through the battle and will be powerful and overcome the enemies. Verse 28, summon your might, O God. Show your strength as you have done before us. And because of your temple at Jerusalem, kings bear gifts to you. So it's, not only, regular people, but the kings of the earth pay reverence to God and look at God as most holy and as the king and the leader of all things, as they should. And then the very last verse, awesome is God. He gives power and strength to his people. So it's, this psalm has a little bit of everything in it. It's kind of a lengthy psalm with 35 verses, but it covers a lot of things, and in some ways, just to read through it, it sounds a little bit disjointed, like you're jumping back and forth, and so maybe it's, it might be that some have been combined into this. I have no idea that way. Anyway, Psalm 69, starts out, save me, O God, for the waters have come up to my neck. I sink in the deep mire. And I've got quicksand written in the side line of my Bible there in the margin. And I remember, as a kid growing up, see all these things of people sinking in the quicksand. And I remember some of the fear that I felt of, being someplace and falling into a pit of quicksand. And I read somewhere else one time that, quicksand as an adult hasn't been nearly the problem that I thought it would be as a child. But those images in the cartoons and in different odd things that way of quicksand and how you just sink and there's no hope for you by yourself. You can't save yourself out of the quicksand. Although they say you kind of use a swimming motion maybe. But the the psalmist is calling for God to reach out and pull him out of this quicksand, this mire, this deep mire, in which there is no foothold. There's no bottom to it. There's no support, no strength. You're overwhelmed with all of the problems of the world, and you just can't seem to find a foothold to get out. You can't find the rock bottom. There's no support anywhere within it. And he says, I've come to the deep waters. The floods sweep over me. I am weary with my cry. My throat is parched. My eyes grow dim while waiting for my God. In a way, it's, everything that's going on in my life, God, where are you? I'm waiting for help. And then listen to all these enemies, a lot of enemies. More in number than the hairs of my head are those who hate me without cause. Maybe a good thing I don't have so many hairs on my head, but I still got more enemies than that maybe. But regardless, there are those who hate me without cause. Many would destroy me. My enemies accuse me falsely. So here is, again, this plea to God. I'm sinking in this deep mire. I'm just overwhelmed. I can't handle it. I've got enemies coming at me more than I can handle, more than I can count. They're speaking false things about me. Help me, save me, and then verse 8, I've become a stranger to my kindred, an alien to my mother's family, to my mother's children. He's been gone so long, or it's been, they haven't been together, and they've forgotten about him. And we feel that way sometimes, that, nobody cares, nobody even thinks about us, and so this is where the psalmist is. He's, sinking into that kind of a depression, but just being overwhelmed with life and everything that's going on. And then verse 9, a statement of faith, it is zeal for your house that has consumed me. The insults that have fallen on me have fallen on me, and I've humbled my soul with fasting, and they insulted me for doing it. So I have remained faithful. I cry out to you, and they're making fun of me for that, making fun of me for my faith, for my trust, and that happens in today's world as well. And then maybe even asking a cry for patience, and as for me, my prayer to you, Lord, at an acceptable time, Lord, at an acceptable time. So give me patience to wait until this time is right for you to take action. Verse 19, you know the insults I receive. I looked for pity, but there was none. I looked for comforters, but there were none. They gave me poison for food. Again, they're out to get me. But, let their table be a trap for them. Make their camp desolation. And he said, end of verse 25, let no one live in their tents. Utterly destroy them. Wipe them out, Let no one live in their tents. There'd be no one left. And this is the cry. And then verse 30 again, I will praise God. So in all of this crying out for help, for mercy, just feeling overwhelmed, the psalmist knows who to turn to. The psalmist knows to turn to God. I will magnify him with thanksgiving, and let the heavens and earth praise him. Let the seas and everything that moves them, verse 34. So it's a reminder that, God is the God not only of humanity, but of all of nature, like earth and all stars, sing God's praise. Psalm 70 is almost identical to the words in Psalm 40, verses 13 through 17. There's a little variation, a little bit of difference, but it's, be pleased, God, to deliver me. Let it be your pleasure to help me, to protect me, to provide my forgiveness. Make haste to help me. Let those be put to shame and confusion who seek my life. Asking for protection. Let all who seek you rejoice and be glad. And if you want to go back to Psalm 40 and look, the words are a little bit different, but very similar. Calling out to God, and reminding yourself of God's power and of God's, he says, deliver me from these problems. Psalm 71 begins, in you, Lord, I take refuge. Never let me put to shame. Verse 5, for you, O Lord, are my hope, my trust from my very youth. And verse 9, do not cast me off in the time of my old age. So I learned of you in my youth. I trust in you in my old age. Watch over me, guide me, lead me. Don't abandon me in my old age. So it's a song for a psalm of asking for prayer and for guidance, for thankfulness, for a lifetime of God watching out. Verse 14, I will hope continually, and I will praise you yet more and more. My mouth will tell of your righteous acts. And verse 17, O God, from my youth you have taught me, and I still proclaim your wondrous deeds. So even to old age and gray hairs, O God, do not forsake me. You know, and then the question in verse 19, O God, who is like you? There is no one like God. His love, his patience, his continual presence with us. So the psalmists cry out in so many ways. And the very ending of Psalm 71, where we end today, is all day long my tongue will talk of your righteousness, for those who have tried to do me harm have been put to shame and disgrace. You, Lord, have protected me at all times.